Welcome to the Soul to Scene podcast, episode 25. I'm Andy Cooper from RMS Motoring. Today I'm with Ross Arnott.
What's happening?
Gary Riley.
Hello.
And our guest today, Anthony Hughes, known as Artois.
Yep, first one was right.
Oh, so it's not like Stella?
No, not quite.
All right, okay. Very welcome, Anthony. Welcome to the podcast. We'll pick up with yourself later in the show. A couple of interesting things that happened myself. Finally, after BSing about EVs for about 20 million years, I've actually pulled a pin and...
A 3-pin?
Pulled a 3-pin.
Sorry.
I know, pull the 3-pin will get you nowhere, which is what we're charging with at the moment. So I think I've touched on the fact that the arse has fallen out of early Model 3s, also fallen out of Jaguar I-Paces, and on Saturday I nipped across to Macclesfield to pick up a 2019 I-Pace for Mrs. C, and it is a fantastic job. Very, very pleased. 400 horse.
I love them. It was the first ever electric car I had driven, and I was just blown away by it. You know, this is for the 2019, 2020, so they're 4-year-old cars now, and they were phenomenal back then. I don't think they've been superseded by the likes of Teslas. Not there. You know, they were very, very quick out of the gates, and as you said, the acceleration of them was just.
They don't have the same standard of battery technology as Tesla. Like, it'll only do about 220 miles, and it's got a 90 kilowatt hour battery, which is massive. Tesla's is about 70 something, but it's funny. Like I reviewed these electric cars, done videos and all that sort of stuff, and then actually having one, and you ever reading and these people run out of charge and go, nah, or it doesn't suit their lifestyle and all the rest. See, when you actually buy one they own, flip it. It becomes a whole different ball. The brain just goes out the window. So I had it all planned. Went on the Zap Map, and it's fantastic. Did my journey plan right. I'm picking it up near Manchester. I'm going to go to Holyhead, across to Dublin, and then up the M1. That's all dead on. It's 140 mile to Holyhead from where I was, and then probably another 100 and something mile home. So I thought, right, I'll need a charge in there. So I'll go to a McDonald's fast charger, 150 kilowatt or whatever it is, on the A55, just at the edge of Wales near Chester. And I'll stop there for 15 minutes, and that'll get me to the ferry. So that was grand. I was in perfect time, and I was going to get to the port about an hour before it sailed, so pretty much bang on time when I needed to go. Landed into the McDonald's. First of all, couldn't find it. Drove around the car park like an absolute lunatic, couldn't find the charger, and it was like I drove past it like 3 times. Complete idiot. Then when I did find it, there was a wee is it a 1008? What's the small Peugeot?
Peugeot, yeah.
Aye. And the way the girl had parked it was the arse of it was across the car parking space, so I had to try and squeeze the Jag in. So I've got it in anyway. And
sorry, how do you know it was a girl parked it?
Because she was sitting in the car eating her
just making sure you're not casting dispersions.
No, her and her mates were sitting looking at me as I was trying to squeeze this thing in. So got it in anyway. Right, charger, what do I need? Right, I need an account. I need a...
Her choice of words.
So 3 girls were looking at you when you're trying to squeeze it in?
Absolutely. And then
Eating a burger.
And then I got my phone out, right?
Not for the first time.
to use the charger, and that was all grand, and it connected up, and I thought, great, I have a spare space, the charger's here. I only have about 15 minutes to stop, but that's going to give me enough charge to get up the road. Plug it in, car just says initialising. And I'm like, what's going on? And it was just initialising. Nothing happened. And I was like, to hell with this. Out, down to the ferry, because if I waste another 10 or 15 minutes here, some boy at the port will just tell me to do one, and the barrier will be down and all the rest. So that was not a good start. I since learned that if I just ejected the charging plug and probably put it back in again, it would have been fine, because the same thing happened to me on up the road.
It's one of these switching modes kind of problems.
So I blast down to get the ferry. That's all grand. Land in Dublin and heading up the road. And I went to a couple of auctions. I was actually texting Mark from EVA, and I was like, Mark, where's good? Forget using apps. Just go to the head of the EV Association Northern Ireland and ask him for where to charge your car. Like, such a lazy bollocks. And Mark says, look, there's there's a super fast one at City North, and I was like, right, look at the map, that's a bit far up there, we'll go to one at Apple Green. Went to Apple Green, but meanwhile Google Maps in its wisdom had decided to switch over from miles to kilometres because we're in the south. And me, in my weakened state of being an absolute idiot, couldn't work out, right, okay, the car's saying so many miles range, Google Maps is telling me so many kilometres, and I get to Banbridge and I'm like, 20 miles range. What have I done? So I go into the what's it called now? It's not called the outlet. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Whatever that park is, it's called the Boulevard or something now. In
Boulevard,
the Boulevard.
Banbridge, yeah.
Someone's hogging the charger. I'm just getting a dirty look. Right, okay. So I head on up the road to there's a petrol station right on the carriageway heading Belfast bound, and I remember it because it must be like a Go station or something like that, because I remember a couple of months ago they did a silly offer where they did, right, before 6 o'clock there's 20p off diesel, and it has the shortest slip lane known to man into it, and that's a 70 mile an hour zone, and I remember coming down one day and there's like just cars queued up the road. It's like flip, supplies didn't write one off. Drive in and there's a guy in an ID3 there and goes, oh, do you think we can reset this? And I'm like, oh, that's a good sign. Walk up and it's just black screen with like a wee dot, and then it just tries to load and then reboots, tries to load and reboot.
It's like a Windows blue screen just crashed.
And I'm like, oh my god, right, I have like 15 miles range. So where can I go next? Hillsborough. And I look in the app on ZapMap and it says status unknown. I'm like, here we go. Go to Hillsborough to the ESB charger. It's not even, there's not a flipping wink out of it, like it's just dead. It's just a box screwed to the footpath. Waste of space. So then I finally went to, at this stage I was in the single digits, and crawled to the McDonald's
in
at
Sprucefield,
where I landed up anyway. Wife's told me, well, how are you getting on with this? Oh, great, it's fine, electric cars are fantastic. You'll really love it. You'll never have range anxiety. See you tomorrow. So land up, and there is a Hyundai Kona on the charge, Southern registered, and pull up beside the guy, and he looks over, and I was like, right, how long is this guy going to be here for? Anyway, winds down the window, and he says, I'm doing a run to Sligo, and I'm like, oh my god, I hope he doesn't have zero battery. He says, give me 20 minutes and I'll be out of here. So I was like, right, happy days. So flipping chilled out for 20 minutes, watched a bit of flipping YouTube on the phone, charged up for another 20 minutes, give me 50 miles or something like that, and got home. But that whole experience, like, and of all the other electric cars that I've driven, I haven't had
this.
Yeah, but it just shows you too, like, I'm very lucky to be able to charge at home.
But that is a perfect example of the infrastructure issue.
The infrastructure is terrible, and at least that guy was decent. Now, and funnily enough, he hadn't really seen an IPS, so we're chatting about the IPS for a while and all that sort of stuff. So,
but you're relying on all these singular points, whereas petrol station you go on and you've 8 tanks you can fill it or whatever. But so many singular points, and a couple are out of action, or someone's using one, or there's a queue or whatever, and you're bamboozled. You have to head on the next one.
Yeah, and I thought I was right. Well, I know the range of the car. I know my entire journey. I know where the charging points are. I have all my ducks in a row here. This is going to be a piece of piss, and just absolutely shafted myself. And I only shafted myself really because I should have had a second Whopper at Apple Green because I waited 15 or 20 minutes, and if I waited half an hour, I would have been golden. But I couldn't look at
that's mad
100 and something kilometres and work out
how many miles that was.
Yeah. Obviously, I can't do that. I'm not an absolute. I felt an imbecile when I was cruising into on the electron fumes in Sprucefield.
So range anxiety probably then. From all the times you took and tested cars and did everything else, but yet when it's your own and you're planning everything out meticulously.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, it's funny too that just I've actually written an article for RMS about this because I was sort of really looking forward to the trip too. There's something about going over across the water to buy a motor. It's like, and I've called the article. I should have published it before this, but stuff and things happen.
It's like a rite of passage. The first time you did, and then after that,
oh my god,
just excitement.
Let me just show you. I'm not making this up. I haven't talked to you. Look at the article title. Right,
you go.
rite of
Jeepers,
passage.
Yeah.
Right, buying a motor in down south, England, Scotland, Wales, something that's just it's fantastic. No, don't get me wrong. Have the fear. You've the fear of going over and will it be a ball of scrap? The money won't go through. Or a chancer. I'll miss my flight. I'll miss my ferry. All these bad things. But when it's all sealed and done, and the car's good and all the rest, and you just have you've been in a totally different part of the world, and you're just it's class. Like it's class. Have you ever bought in from across the water, Anthony?
Yeah, probably half my cars, to be honest with you. At least the ones that I've kept for any length of time. You know, that I was really sort of spent time looking forward to go for the last 1, 2, 3 cars, and then prior to that was God knows how many. But as you said, it's part of. I would nearly, if the two same cars, if one was 10 miles away and one was in sort of south of England, nearly as you said, it's sort of there's no real logic to it other than it's a bit of an adventure and a bit of a jolly.
Yeah.
You would nearly go for the ones in the south of England, because as you said, it's the anxiety of will to make the boat and what's the traffic going to be like on that A55 and stuff, and
Just the whole journey.
I don't know why we put ourselves through it, but it is. Whenever you make it home, you're like, that was good. Like,
The flip side is that, you know, with the highs come the lows. If you've ever gone over and it hasn't worked out,
yeah,
it's crushing disappointment.
that's happened.
You know, it just happened me a couple of times, and probably has happened you, Andy, and everyone else who's been over. It's just, you know, when you take out the money and plan the journey and plan the whole trip, and you've envisaged it all in your head coming back with the car, and then you get there and it's a heap of shit. I did go over one time, I remember, and the car didn't work out, and I just stayed an extra night. I spent my whole time in Auto Trader trying to find something else just to bring home, even though it wasn't what I wanted, but there was nothing.
I did it once. I had was flying over to Newcastle upon Tyne to buy a 24 valve Vauxhall Senator,
Nice.
ex-police, as you do. Hopped into it. Guy starts it up, gives it a wee rev. It's like, oh, it only needs an engine. at the purchase price of 400 quid, I was like, no, keep it, you're all right. And then I was like, so I'll just get out of the Auto Trader and I'll be grand. Of course, it's a Sunday. And, you know, and it was back when it was like literally you're leafing through the physical Auto Trader, and had to go to one dealer that was open. What was the cheapest car he had, literally, and I bought a 205 XLD, and I ended up dealing that thing for 6 months. It was like it got me home, and then
Got you
I
home.
used it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I have after boring everyone, I actually bought an EV. There's an EV in the household. And see now we have it and charge it at home and all the rest. It's first class.
Yeah. Had you actually, so of all the cars you'd driven, had you driven an IPS before you bought one?
I had been to see one about a week and a half ago, down here in Belfast, actually, just to see what it was like, see if the missus liked it, because we have wee one, dog, all the rest. Was that going to work with family life? And the answer was yes. Model 3 wasn't really going to work because we have a dog, so Model Y was too expensive. And then I was looking at top tip, by the way, I have a top tip for you. The motorway website has a great thing. You can put the reg in, it gives you a valuation, but then it has a thing where you can look at the historical valuation of that, what CAP has said it's been over the last 18 months or something like that there. So I was able to see that in the last 6 months that those cars had lost 20% of the value. I thought, right, well, hopefully that is not going to continue.
Yeah.
You know, so, and it still has 3 years warranty and all that sort of carry on, you know, so some crack, but deal done.
They're definitely one of the more attractive EVs. Like, I've always admired them, you know, because a lot of EVs, not all of them, but a lot, I find, are quite kind of shapeless and blobby, and they don't seem to have got the styling right. Are they either that, or they deliberately style them to look different and futuristic, and it just doesn't work yet? But the IPS has always been like a really good looking car.
Aye, no, it's nice. Now, old man spec with cream leather and all, because I'm old man now, so you don't get like sport seats, or anything. You get the cream comfort.
You blanket in the back window.
Tartan rug.
Tartan rug for the Jag.
Yep. Jagger golf ball umbrella. You know what I mean.
And when do you start calling it a Jaguar?
Jaguar.
Jaguar.
The Jag. And in other news, I have now been steering the new Amira as well.
Yes.
Some job.
Gorgeous.
Absolutely some job. I've shown it to you guys earlier on there, so just had it for a minute or two just to see what it's like.
That's the first one I've actually seen up close. I've seen a few in the past of me.
Yep.
That's the first one I've seen up close, and you know, Gary was saying he thought they were quite small, but see, when you look at it, like the proportions are just perfect. Like, it's just fat ass, squat, wheel in each corner, like right out pushed. It's just beautiful car.
It's very. I'm surprised how grown up it is. It's very comfortable. You know, like heated seats. It's fairly quiet cabin. Fantastic visibility for Lotus, which is really random. Has massively extended mirrors to see past those big haunches, and then just that beautifully pure hydraulic steering, stuff like that.
It's very much mini supercar to look at, I think. You know, there's bits of Ferrari there, bits of Lotus, bits of, you know, probably the Evora, you can see that in it. To a certain degree in other cars as well, but they've somehow managed to meld it all together seamlessly. It just works.
I've had cars like you suddenly stop, people are looking. Like, what? So, still don't have mine yet, but I know I've hopefully made the right decision. So it's been an interesting vehicle week or two for me, but not just for me, Gary. Tell us the news.
Finally bought something.
Yes.
After many years.
We must have been taking the strong tablets after the last podcast.
I know I haven't had anything since I had a Golf R for a while, and then sold that before COVID, and then COVID happened, and I kind of had money sitting in the bank. I thought, well, I'll buy something or wait, and there's no point. It's going to sit in the driveway. So wait and waited, and then COVID kind of ended, and people got back to normal, and we did up our living room instead, and spent money on various other things, so just never bothered with a car. I've been wafting along ever since. So finally decided get my finger out and get something bought. So went for an M4 competition.
It's that like M2 blue. It's beautiful. What
Long Beach blue. So it wasn't advertised. Woodcutter kind of put me in touch with a guy who had it, knew he might sell it, and me and him had a conversation and worked out a deal. And didn't go to England for it. Didn't have that kind of adventure, but I'm still pretty excited going to get it. You know, and it was nice to get it.
Yeah.
And not so much range anxiety, but probably traction anxiety on the way home, because if you ever driven one of them, they're pretty spiky in third and fourth. You know, there's so much torque down low on it.
We were talking about that earlier on. You were saying you had a C63, Anthony, didn't you?
E63 I had for a few months.
Right, okay. The big estate or saloon racer?
It was a saloon, but because we were talking, I'm in a C43 at the minute, and as terrible as it's probably an indication of age, maybe more than anything else, that the partial sort of all-wheel drive was more interesting to me than maybe the extra 150 from, you know, because it's just not, it's fine for weekends and whatever other, but after about a week, the novelty of sort of trying to catch the back end on the roundabout, heading up to Newry, you know, every morning,
and you just want to get somewhere.
Sometimes you just want to get to work, you know.
Yeah.
So.
Oh dear!
I'm probably stopping at petrol stations as well on them, because they were a thirsty brute of a car.
Yeah. They were, definitely.
There's nothing sounds quite like an AMG.
I agree.
And that
100%.
engine in anything that it goes in, like, in fact, you know, we were just talking about our Aston Martin across the road there, because they're obviously now using it's the 4 litre now.
The AMG engine.
In the is the new V8, you know, and they're even still a cracker sounding thing, but they all sound like just a Messerschmitt or something like that. There, you know, they're just absolutely unreal.
You just know the sound of an AMG when they're like pushing. It's just
machine gun along. Yeah,
there's just something about them.
They were always kind of German equivalent of an American muscle car. I thought just that
totally.
Big brute of an engine and noisy as hell.
Totally. No, it's and as we were saying actually, AMG has become much more of a hardcore brand over the last.
Yeah.
Also, the interiors on them as well, but sort of, if you're looking at the same kind of classic car between, say, sort of the three big, you know, the Audi, BMW, Mercedes, like sort of the equivalent that I was looking at was maybe a 340i Touran. And I was looking at some ads and stuff, and there were quite a few grand cheaper as well. And then I saw the interior and I was like, "Geez, this looks like this is the same interior that my like 320d E46
very
had,
clean, aren't they? Yeah,
really, like same steering wheel, same button. I was like, you're paying that kind of money.
You want something a wee bit different.
You want something a bit nicer to sit in. Like that's what you're going to be looking at the whole time when you're driving, you know. And the Mercedes just so much nicer inside. It really was.
The C43, so it's V6 twin turbo, 400 and something.
400 something, yeah, it's 400-ish.
Isn't it terrible when that's a compromise?
I know.
I had to compromise with something that's 400 horse.
It's silly, but sure.
It's class. Absolutely.
But you remember 400 horse was like, you know, it was the realm of tuned Cosworths and things like that there.
Oh, yeah.
Remember
now it's a baseline.
Remember Mitsubishi brought out the
the FQ 400.
FQ 400, fucking quick, as they said it stood for, and you know, everyone was blown away, apart from the fact it had horrendous turbo lag.
Yeah.
But 400 was that magic number, whereas our daily drivers, EV has 400 brake.
all the 2-litre Scoobies as well. If you remember, 400 was you know kind
that
of
was
the
magical,
was the magic number. Get your torque and your horsepower to 400, and I mean that's only 10 years ago.
Actually, when you consider it, the three. Well, what's yours? Yours is 400 and something.
Yeah,
as well.
444, I think.
So
Something like that.
petrol M4 444, Anthony's 400-ish. Yours electric 400-ish. My dirty diesel 400-ish. Like it's
mad.
crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, that level of performance and
Yeah.
and then tire technology and all the rest. Like it's just makes it far too difficult
Yes.
to control oneself. But
And too easy not to.
Exactly. Anyway, on to other mundane things that have happened. Maybe not mundane, but really sorry to hear about New Look Wheels.
Yeah.
A local alloy wheel repairer for decades.
Who've been on the go for, like 20 odd years now.
Yeah, absolutely.
The originals of
Probably the
it.
first name that pops into your head if you're looking, a really good proper refurbishment.
It's sad times. I don't know if it's market pressures or what's going on. Or do you know what? The trade is hard to get people into these days too. If you want to be a mechanic or a painter or something like that, it's not something that people aspire to get into these days too. Because I remember reading that they couldn't get a tire fitter, or their tire fitter had left, or something like that. And sad to hear.
I'd been messaging him backwards and forwards, after he put the news in that there. And, when somebody's put so much of a life into a business, he's heartbroken that he's having to walk away from it. But, as he said himself, just pressures and everything, the market that's out there, competition, and when he sets his standards at such a high level.
Yeah.
And, it's just a shame that after all these years that it's time for him to hang up the lathe.
Hang up the lathe, indeed. The other shocker I think it was messaging you guys about was we interviewed Bob Flavin a while ago. Does car reviews down south, and someone hacked his YouTube account with 13 years of review videos wiped out, and his livelihood. Now, thankfully, about 3 or 4 days later, he got it. He got everything back, but that's crazy.
Yeah, and again, when that's his livelihood online, when you lose, like imagine overnight losing all your income and your sources of income.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a touchy bum moment.
You can't even start from zero.
No,
you have, that's the thing. You have to build up over a long to be any way good at those online platforms. I have no aspiration to be, because I know the effort. You can see the effort the likes of
you can't
Johnny Smith or Harry Metcalf or these guys put into these.
You can't just redo it.
No,
it's not that kind of output.
No, it's mental.
Very nasty. Whoever did it, like, was it? Has he any ideas, or has he spoken about? Was it one of these foreign hacking groups or something like that?
Probably it's just been unfortunate with something going around. So horrendous. But anyway, on the other things, like Gary, Sierra Causey.
Yeah, we were talking about Silverstone auctions before. I think we'd gone through a list of stuff that sold after the classic car auctions in the NEC, but obviously Silverstone, they run all year round.
We were auctions on the brain in the last episode. After we were on the BCA. We spent more time on the BCA auction site than we were actually recording this podcast.
Yeah, we talked through some of the values, because we keep, like, every episode we're talking about the modern classic market, and is it going up, is it going down, and it never really seems to be fading away at all. If anything, it's getting stronger in some areas, and this is probably an example here where Silverstone have sold a 1987 Sarah Cosworth RS 500 model, I think, 5,000 miles, so it's not spitting you out of the box. It's some of these cars were never driven, but seen a little bit of mileage. But sold it for 590,000 sterling.
That's just mental.
And then their fees and stuff on top, so probably I'd say 650, 700 wouldn't touch it. And apparently the guy had kept it really well. He'd actually taken the wheels off and put on a set of spare wheels and tyres, just so that it wouldn't be sitting, where the tyres just kind of collapse into a blob.
Yeah, flip me.
But insane money. I don't know what they were new. Would you have an idea? Were they 25,000 probably back in the day?
Yeah, 87? I don't know. Probably back when you could buy a Bogo Sierra 16L for $5,000 or something like that there.
Apparently, I googled this. Apparently, they had a low in the early 90s of, I think the cheapest RS 500 went for just over 10 grand. You know, and that back then it wouldn't have had crazy mileage because they were that old. So that just shows you like the kind of stratospheric rise it's had.
It's like 22B or Lotus Carlton and all that sort of era of stuff, which all opposite, or R32 GTR, all epic stuff, but just totally like nonsense money.
Yeah,
nonsense money.
I'm sure it's beautiful, but still, it's over $500,000 for a Sierra.
Like, how much money would you have to have sitting spare that you don't even flinch at spending 600 grand on a Sierra?
But that's not bought to be driven. Like, that car's
But
That's
it's not
for a
bought to be
museum,
driven.
yeah.
But how much more money, like, do you think that can even, is it going to keep lifting? And if it does, is it going to go up by another 20, 30, 50, 100,000?
Yeah. I don't know, it's just a nonsense figure.
It's
Like.
nonsense, actually.
I suppose every year goes by, that car becomes more rare. Because
Yeah.
there's bound to be a few will be lost or sold or whatever, and disappear.
Yeah.
Rennis, he had sent me a photo as well. He photographed for collecting cars over here, and there was a 1976 Fiat 131 Abarth Stradale. It was a beautiful car, so it was, but it sold for £151,000.
It's mad.
That's like, it's crazy.
And that's from over here?
From over here, new world record on. I think I was collecting cars.
Mad.
Imagine taking your Fiat to cars from, putting a stand around it and everything so nobody will touch it.
So I bought a car. Well, not really my car. Gary's bought a car. Have you won any cars this week?
No, I haven't won it. I've won nothing more. I've bought nothing more. I bought an MOT, although that's
hold on.
that's well, no, I haven't bought an MOT.
You need to choose your words carefully.
I bought an MOT appointment. So this is actually a state of how kind of messed up the whole tax system and everything is over here. So my wee work van, I've just been. It goes through in a direct debit every month for your road tax. Fine, no problem at all. So, start of the year, I got a notification through to say your van's coming up in 3 years old. You have to book an MOT appointment. No worries at all. So that was start of January. I booked my MOT appointment for the very first available date, which was 20-something of April. So I got a letter through from DVLA to say, listen, guess what? Your car tax is due for renewal. We do it every month, but after next month, we're not going to do it because you don't have it. You don't have an MOT. Fine, no issues at all. So I phoned them up and said, look, this is the situation now. I've been paying it by direct debit. And that was fine. My MOT appointment isn't until April something, and they were like, computer says no. And I was like, but so what do you want me to do? Can I put a year's tax on it now and then just drive it until I get my MOT? You can't do that there. I go, so what can I do? Well, you can phone up the DVLA or the MOT appointments every morning to get a cancellation. I was like, it just doesn't make sense, anything about it. So, yeah, of course I have to get a cancellation appointment, but, when their system is so far behind that it's 4 months in getting an appointment.
That's mad.
And then when you've been paying your road tax, which when you look at how good our roads are, like, you don't mind paying it. But when you've been paying that along, and they basically say, well, yeah, at the end of this month, or the end of next month, actually, you have to take your van off the road until you get the MOT appointment.
Yeah.
That's free, no fault of your own. Like, you're willing to tax it.
So I will end up getting a cancellation, but like, what a shambles of a system. All because some fucking pen pushers are sitting up and cannot do a job with any sort of rhyme or reason or sensible time frame.
Well, they got it absolutely shafted in it with the back just before COVID with the lifts.
Yeah.
The cracked lifts, and then it just they just got worse and worse after that. It's terrible. It is a sad state of affairs that we have to use these government test centres, which in general before COVID was a good job.
But what are they doing to address backlogs? Or are they working extra hours? Or are they bringing in more staff? Have they
don't
done anything?
seem to be. So I think I spoke in the last podcast where the M3 has been MOT'd, and when I was up there again, there was a couple of guys coming in and out, and the testers were saying, there's some guy was in, he must be like a local car dealer, he was dropping a couple of cars in, and they said to him, look, you're back up here later on this evening, squeeze yourself in early and we'll do it for you. And I was like, oh, dead on, like, you get a couple more cars put through. And I was like, all right. Get them pushed through quickly, and then off home they go.
All right.
Yep.
Well, if you work for the MOT centre, we want to hear
privatised soon.
We want to hear from you. Although at the same time, I was MOTing the wife's car about a month ago, and I was looking at there was a price list up on the wall. That price list hasn't changed in 10 plus years. I may be tempting fate here, but 30, like it's been £30.50, I think since 2011 or something mad like that. So we might flip and be careful what we wish for too.
Yeah, by and large, the MOT. I do think the MOT system over here is a lot better than we made a joke there, but you can buy an MOT in England. There's loads of boys have done it. There's quite a few rally cars on the road, but the fact that you can do that there, whereas our system over here, in fairness, is properly done. You wouldn't mind. You don't mind, but it's these waiting lists, and it's kind of, if you run out of tax, it's your fault. It's not ours. Even though we're facing a massive backlog and we're doing it, this, that, and the other, and it's not suitable for people to always, get up in the morning, forget about taking kids to school, forget about this, that, and the other, get on the computer to try and get a cancellation.
Yeah.
Now, I've no doubt that the next time we're talking, I'll be able to tell you that I was able to go on and get a cancellation. But part of the problem with cancellations is, who wants to drive to Larne for an MOT?
That's where I went.
Why Larne, Ross? Why did you have to pick a Larne?
Because it's a wee bit further out of the way. Yeah. But who, none of us want to go too far away from where we're based to have to get an MOT at a cancellation because they can't do their jobs.
Well, maybe I've been lucky, but the last couple of cancellations I got within an hour of searching for them.
Yeah.
When I bought the M4, actually, it's due an MOT, and the seller had a date, and I think it was another month away, and I obviously wanted to drive it straight away, so went straight online, looked for the cancellation, and just kept refreshing the queue, enjoying the queue, and within an hour there was one here in Boucher Road. And I think it doesn't even matter time of day. People have this thing that you have to go on 9 o'clock in the morning, and that's when they open up. But nowadays, follow the online bookings.
Well, I suppose that's true.
There's slots up here all day long.
Do you know what? I think they could improve that whole booking system as well, for sure. Do you know what? It was very satisfying to go to the tax office for the I-Pace. She says, "Do you want 6 months or 12 months?" And I was like, "I'll splash out and go for 12 months.
go for all 12.
Go for all 12. Big fat zero. Thank you very much." Happy days.
Excellent.
I was a bit sour about my own because the dealer covered the first year, whatever the dealer worked out. So I never really, just sort of stupidly, I was excited about it. I didn't actually pay attention to how much it was. Sort of like. I knew it wasn't going to be cheap, right? Because it's whatever, 3 litre petrol, 2023 or whatever. But when it came renewal time in the tax there, I looked at it and I was looking at the bands what it was in, and it's not actually in one of the highest bands because it's actually reasonably no emissions for what it is, but they stick that FU tax on it for the first couple of years.
Yes, that's right.
Which then brings it above what the upper band was.
So cars over retailing over 40 grand or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. It's a proper kick in the teeth. Sure.
But as we've said, you've got these wonderful roads to drive on.
Oh,
which makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah.
I was checking out the Lotus, as in doing the checkout process on the Lotus website, not just standing there checking it out. Which I have been doing anyway, of course. But and then it was like first year's road fund license, and I can't remember the exact number, but it's something like 1,625 quid or something like that there, and I was like,
yeah,
yep,
it's horrendous.
Grim. Grim.
But then you think like a couple of miles south from here, across the border, you pay that on like a family car, for your year's tax,
and the fences,
yep.
So and the VRT.
VRT.
And the VRT, yeah.
And the VRT. Scary.
Wild altogether.
I looked at a few M4s down south, just out of curiosity, because I have bought the car down there, and they're all like €20,000 more than you pay in England. That's just pure VRT.
It's mad.
I just can't wrap my head around it.
Funny, Mark from R Kings again, he was speaking to Rennes out there, and he was saying whenever they bring on like performance cars, Southern registered, he knows they will sell. So the cars that had the VRT paid on them already, they're selling them out in no record time. So because
isn't there something about a car that's originally registered in Northern Ireland as well? There's some sort of
I think it has to be in. Yes, there was, but there was something that had to be registered in Northern Ireland and be resident in Northern Ireland for more than 12 months. It's not a car that's been bought in from England and then stuck Northern Ireland plates on it and then shipped down south. So there was something about it had to be in Northern Ireland for a certain amount of time before it could go down at the cheaper rate.
Yeah. Oh, aye.
But yeah.
Class. Well, the reason that this gentleman sitting beside me is much more interesting, I think, than any of that combined. Even my stories. Anthony, great to have you here. You've done something that seems so spectacular and just mind-blowing that we couldn't not have you on. So thanks for coming here, because not only are you a learned member of RMS and your counsel is widely sought on the forum, but and this is where I know very little about what you've done, but it just sounds absolutely crazy. You started a crowdfunding campaign to go and buy a pickup and take it full of kit to Ukraine.
Yep, that was the plan. As insane as it sounds, yeah.
That is like, so you're just back?
Back, what day is today? Back about 11 days now, yeah.
Okay.
So.
And drove the whole way there and flew back, or?
Yep. Drove the whole way there, which isn't actually as bad as it sounds. And then about 36 hours worth of trains and buses.
Oh, yeah, like
to Warsaw.
Interrailed it back up the road?
Yeah, and then well, no, that was just to get to Warsaw.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah,
oh.
and then flew Warsaw Dublin. Yeah.
Wow.
And to somebody like me who can't visualize a map, where do you go when you were heading out there? What was your route?
So Dublin Holyhead, because the fact that long boat to Liverpool or anything, and then that was the early boat on a Monday morning into Holyhead for just after 11, feeling nice and fresh, and then it's like a 6.5 hour drive coast to coast nearly to Harwich, just kind of northeastish of London City. Small enough port, and then overnight boat in the Holland on the Ostend line, and that was in early Tuesday morning. And then it's a really long, really easy, really boring drive across the width of Netherlands, the width of Germany, and then into sort of halfway into Poland. We stopped overnight then, but yeah, that was out of. It sounds a bit silly. It was driving a 4x4 through a war zone, but the least enjoyable part of the whole trip was that them autobahns in Netherlands and Germany. It's just so boring, so long,
slow and boring. Did anything pass your warp speed that was pick your attention up?
Absolutely no. Yes, there's a reason that the indiscipline there is so good. That's because you will have some guy on the way to a meeting on the other side of Germany, you know, up your backside at like 130, 140, 150, no problem, like every couple of minutes, you know. But I mean, that's just the nature of it. You know?
The autobahn's cracker. But let's wind back the clock to where did this idea come from, and how did you get from that to being on the road going there?
Well, I'd always have friends in Ukraine, and I know Ukrainians living in Northern Ireland for a long time, so I was always sort of semi-aware of what was going on there. Like, people maybe aren't aware that like the war, the so-called anniversary was during the week there, the 24th, for like, you know, the year of the war or whatever, but actually it's been on for 9 years. And even before sort of last February, I think it was well over 10,000 Ukrainians killed, like, by Russians, mostly contained to the east of the country. So even further away from us, so even less attention was really paid to it, kind of thing. So I've always been kind of semi-aware of it. And then obviously early last year, it sort of really ramped up, kicked off. And I was talking to people that were in the country, and I was talking to people that had gone over. A couple of guys I know that served, both British Army, Irish Army, went over to volunteer and fight. And I was sort of, as I was, like, I'm literally texting people, and they're, you know, they've missiles on outside in the street kind of thing in Kyiv. First couple of days, I'm like, geez, what can I do here? Like, you just felt kind of useless, you know. And I sort of thought, well, there's no point in me going over and like volunteer to fight around. I'd do more harm to the people around me than, you know, and that's like. So it was sort of like, right, what do they really need? And it was like real basic stuff, like tourniquets for like civilians and military casualties. Big one was vehicles, like vehicles, because their army sort of basically tripled in size overnight because they had to sheerly have the numbers to kind of defend against the Russians. And, you know, stuff like uniforms and guns and bullets, whatever, that's taken care of on a kind of high level in governments and aid agencies and that kind of thing. But just real simple stuff like a pickup truck. And like, right, what do they need a pickup truck for? Well, all their ambulances, especially in the east of the country, just got destroyed in like the first month. Wow. Whether through the hospitals being intentionally struck, which is still happening to this day. You know, fire stations, whatever, they're intentionally struck to sort of reduce the capabilities of the emergency services. But also, you have these frontline cities where there's just thousands and thousands of artillery shells landing every day, and you have an ambulance going into there to, whether pick up a wounded soldier or civilians in the area, whatever it is. They just got destroyed, their whole fleet. So that was kind of the idea. Was that, right? They're using pickups basically for evacuating people, and that was kind of like, right, I know cars, I know 4x4s and stuff, right? That's where I can help, and that's kind of just where the whole idea came from. It's
amazing,
spectacular,
absolutely.
Yeah. So, what made you decide on Mitsubishi's finest?
Noisy, thirsty, rattly, but broadly unkillable.
Yeah.
Same with all the old Japanese stuff, provided they don't snap in half like Navarre style. But although some of the L200s have started doing that now as well, I've seen. But yeah, they're like us. They know what's kind of old and reliable, and there's anytime you're out there, you see a green truck going past. 80% of the time, it's an L200. Like,
oh, right, okay.
So the parts are widely available. They like them. The good bed size and stuff, and 5 seats, all the rest. And they can tow for a bit as well, actually.
So you had the idea,
yep,
which seems fine. Like lying in a nice warm bed at night, watching a bit of Netflix and whatever else over here. To then, right, maybe an L200 would be good, and I know cars and all. But what makes you then take the next step of? Because I presume then it's right. Tell people, and I need a few pound here to actually make this happen. Was it? Is that what came next?
That's pretty much exactly what happened, and I have zero, and I mean zero, fundraising experience, or nothing to do with charities or anything. Last time I raised money, it was probably like a cake sale or something 5 years ago.
You didn't think the cakes would do it this time, right?
No, not quite. Although the price for a Rice Krispie bun these days, you never know. But no, so I fired up the old Facebook, which I'd like deactivated years ago. I knew I still had sort of friends and ex-colleagues and family and stuff on there, and knocked together like a wee page and an idea of what I was doing. And like, of course, 90% of the reactions was either like, you're a lunatic, get lost, or that kind of thing. There was a few supportive people, and I managed to get actually shout out to Stephen from Used Cars NI. They were super excited about it. They sent out an email to their customers, basically, saying what I was after, and they made a sizable donation as well, and a couple of other businesses too. And then I kind of leveraged just social media. Twitter was a big one as well. I kind of have a semi-decent account on there that I could sort of leverage to, and most of the people on there are kind of where it was happening. And I always kind of knew that once I got the first one done, the rest should, in theory, be easier, right? Because I'm not just some idiot from Northern Ireland with this great idea. I'll have the photos and the videos and stuff, which I do now, just sort of to show where I was and who I met and that kind of thing. And I reached out to a Ukrainian guy I know living in America that used to serve there back in 2015, 2016. I was like, listen, right, I have this pickup truck. It exists. It's not just an idea anymore. I'm booking ferries and stuff. Who needs it the most? And he put me in contact with a couple of guys out in eastern Ukraine, and then went through all the paperwork processes and all the rest and the journey, and then eventually got to hand it over to them.
It's amazing,
very very satisfying.
So and not only you did that, you had a thread in RMS, and so you were, and I'll post this in the show notes, because it was we all got to sort of share in your journey, because you kept that really up to date as you went along, saying like, this is what I'm thinking of doing, and then the crowdfunding, and here's what I bought, and here's what I'm going to take. So not only you decided, well, I'm going to take this over, but I'm sure you were thinking, right, who's it going to go to? What else am I going to bring? Like, what else was involved with it? Did that all sort of start to come as you were starting to raise the money, or you had that decided beforehand? Or
initially, the idea was I wanted to buy kind of emergency and sort of tactical medicine stuff. So we talk about like tourniquets and Israeli bandages and sort of hemostatic clotting agents, basically, and stuff for severe wounds. But at that time, they were basically sold out everywhere. because everyone that knew anything about it had the same
Was
ideas.
helping out or trying to.
Trying to help out. Or, I mean, there was probably, in France, there's probably a bit of profiteering going on as well. Unfortunately, that always happens. So I thought, right, okay, I'll knock this in the head. And sort of by the time I was getting ready to go, it was coming in sort of late autumn, early winter time, and the Russians had really started to ramp up the attacks on like the thermal power plants and stuff and the gas plants, and it's basically to try and freeze the Ukrainians out over the winter. So 90% of Ukraine was running on small diesel generators, basically. And I thought, right, okay, that should be straightforward enough to get a hold of, you know, get something decent. And the money that I would have spent with kind of the, at least locally, kind of the really extortionate medicine prices and stuff, I got a really good, I think it was like a 6 kilowatt electric start diesel generator, you know, on a frame from actually Wilson's off the forum.
Yes, that's Simon. Yeah, fantastic.
Lighting.
I saw that on the back of the in the photos of it on the back of the and then so you're on this journey. You're in your pickup, absolutely full of stuff. Was it just yourself? Was anyone over else with you as well? Do you have a wingman?
Yeah, so I actually, pure coincidence, absolute luck, that I'd posted on, because I knew I had a wee bit of room left in the back of the truck, and I just, there's that many like Facebook groups like Humanitarian Aid, Northern Ireland, blah, blah, blah. And I just posted and said, look, I'm heading to Ukraine, I have a bit of room in the back of the truck, if anyone needs anything to throw in, now's the time to shout, because, you know, I'll be leaving, I won't charge you anything, whatever, you know, have the room. And there was a bunch of people who reached out. A lovely lady from up Comber direction. Her church group had raised funds, and they had bought loads of like batteries and heaters and lights and stuff to go to some civilians in frontline cities. So that took a bit of room up. And then there was a lady actually reached out. She was hosting a Ukrainian family here in Northern Ireland since early last year. And the husband obviously stayed behind, as most of them did. And they hadn't seen each other in like nearly a year, you know. And they had like a wee kind of parcel they had knocked together for kind of like Christmas that, you know, sent home to dad kind of thing. And as soon as I told that, I was like, geez, my heart was breaking. Like, so I immediately agreed to that. And that was one of the things I delivered as well. I got a photo up in the thread and that as well. But then one guy reached out, a Polish guy living down south. He had been raising funds and he had about 2 or 3 grand's worth of kit to go to. There's a group in Ukraine called the Georgian Legion, and they're all Georgians. And for anyone that doesn't know kind of the history in that region, 2008, Georgia was invaded by Russia as well. And they still sort of occupy like 25% of Georgia, basically. There was a lot of Georgians killed, and it was bad, but a lot of the Georgians went to Ukraine then to help them kind of defend. But so there was a big sort of contingent of them, and he had raised a bunch of cash, and he said, listen, we'll split the fuel costs and the ferry costs, whatever. And I was like, happy days, because at that stage, like, that all came out of my pocket. Wow. Any penny, basically every penny that was raised went towards the cost of the truck and the generator. So it was like happy days. And then I found it was actually on the Polish border, which was a nightmare. Lots of lessons learned there. It was very useful because obviously he spoke fluent Polish, you know.
Wow. So what luck.
Yeah. Very lucky.
And I was going to ask you about that, because certainly the logistics of driving across Europe, to me, anytime I've done it, it's really straightforward.
Yeah.
But not going into somewhere which is like a war-stricken country. So you drove through Germany down into Poland, and I presume all that part was fine. And then what about, you said you had problems at the border, so what is that? I have visions of the likes of even the long way up, long way round type, you know, the problems those guys got into, that Ewan McGregor and stuff with the bikes. Never mind, but you're going into a war zone. Is it much more difficult?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of it is to do with obviously Ukraine isn't in the EU. There's no Schengen zone, so Poland is kind of, I guess, the frontier of the Schengen zone, both with Belarus and Ukraine. So things are quite tight anyway. But I think, especially since sort of the full invasion last year, things have really tightened up, and they're, you know, if you think about it in reality, they have to be looking out for smuggling and probably gun running and, of course, all sorts of stuff going on, you know. And so basically, there's 2 lanes as you go into Ukraine from the Polish border. It's kind of the green lane, which is for civilian traffic, and then there's the commercial lane. So we were like, right, well, we're civilians. I'm not moving any goods to sell or anything like that. So we're like, right, we'll try our luck into the green lane. And we explained to them, we're taking this to deliver this and blah 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 blah. And your man goes, no, back into that lane, man. And you're talking like it's an 11 or 12 hour queue.
Oh.
And we purposely went to one of the smaller border crossings because it's actually a shorter crew than a lot of them. And so that was great fun. Now, luckily, a truck 2 or 3 sort of back from the very front of the queue called us over, and he says, it was a Ukrainian guy, Ukrainian number plates, whatever. He was a lorry driver. Just bringing goods back and forth, like supermarkets, whatever. And he luckily he actually spoke Polish as well, as a lot of people in Western Ukraine do. So him and my Polish co-pilot had a little chat, and the conversation was like because he saw because I had painted the car up green and we'd stickered it decent tires and all that, and he says, "Oh, is this for the army?" And he was like, "Well, it's not technically for the army, but it's going to the front lines. It's going to be." And as soon as he heard that, this Ukrainian guy at the front of the queue, he was like, no. He backed up his truck and let us basically squeeze in and skip like 10 hours of traffic on the border.
Oh my God.
And the guys behind him are going absolutely ballistic. But again, Ukrainians, lorry drivers, whatever. And he jumped out and he goes back to talk to them. Then instantly, as soon as they knew what it was for, they were like, okay, no problem, understood.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And
that's unreal.
And there was a lot of that. There was a lot of people realise you're there to help.
Yeah, you're there. You're doing stuff that other people aren't doing or afraid to do. Not that they're not willing to do it, but like you are this agent from Northern Ireland in a green L200 with a generator with everything else in the back of it, and you're going to their country to help them out. Like that's
incredible.
That's amazing.
Absolutely incredible. So you slipped across the border in just fantastic circumstances in the end. You were being looked down on there, like to get across. What was it like after that?
Like normal, honestly. And just for the record, for anyone that hasn't actually been, because typical me hadn't been to that part of Europe before, whatever. Travelled a bit, but I'd never really been around Eastern Europe much. Poland is beautiful, and we were joking about the state of our roads earlier. Like a little B road going into like a village of like 30 people is better than like our main roads over here, like in Poland. Like it's so clean, so modern, but it blew my mind anyway. So beautiful, really, the landscape and stuff. And as soon as you got across into Ukraine, then had to deal with the Ukrainian side, which is more paperwork, a little bit kind of, they're maybe like, say, 10 years behind in the process and stuff. There's a lot of more manual paperwork filling out, and again, they're checking for, you're not bringing weapons across or drugs or, all the sorts of things that people are trying to bring into war zones. But again, that once they kind of heard what we were talking about, these very sort of stern-looking guys with like AKs and military uniforms and stuff suddenly became a lot more receptive and helpful with the forms and stuff, And then after that, it's just they waved us on, we'd filled everything out, and we had a couple of hour drives ahead of us, and we're actually okay. Well, I guess we're in Ukraine now,
Did you at any point have a contact in Ukraine, so to speak, or were you just going over and looking for, I don't know, an aid station or whatever it was you had to go?
No, so as I said, that was the Ukrainian guy in America that I spoke about. He had put me in contact with these guys in Kharkiv, which is it's the second biggest city in Ukraine, in the east of the country. Got absolutely battered for 8 or 9 months, and then that was, if you maybe caught it in the news, sort of towards the end of the summer, coming into autumn, did a huge big counter-offensive, and they pushed the Russians back like miles and miles. So not as dangerous now, but still hairy enough, So I knew, and I'd been in contact with the the two guys that I was actually handing everything over to. So they knew when I was coming and sort of stayed in contact with them, and had a couple of other numbers for people in country if we got in any trouble or anything. And also his kind of his people had like basically written up a letter in both Polish and Ukrainian saying, who I was, where the truck was going, who they were, any issues, call this number type thing. And it was fine. But even especially the closer you got to Kyiv, and then especially more so on the eastern side, there's checkpoints like maybe every 10 kilometres, something like that, 5 or 6 miles. And 9 times out of 10 they saw a big green truck heading east, wave them on kind of thing,
Brilliant.
Because they know either we're going to do something important or we have something important in the back. And anytime we did get stopped, it was literally just passports, grand, and they ask, are you volunteers? Yep. And away you went, everyone kind of very appreciative of what was happening. So really no troubles at all. You'd hear horror stories of, most of it exaggerations and stuff, you need to bribe people and do it. That's absolute nonsense. Like they're a country basically fighting for survival. Anyone that's arsing about trying to fucking do that is going to get shit kicked out.
Get dealt with, yeah.
They seem to be like a one mind, one people type. It's brought the people together.
Unified them.
Yeah.
I mean, they always kind of were, but I mean, it's a massive country. Like it's 40 million people. Pre-war. Sadly, a couple of million less that now because so many people had to flee. But yeah, I mean, in terms of it's kind of it's an existential thing. Like you don't really have time to be worrying about the minutiae of life, probably. So yeah, it probably is quite a unifying thing.
So after you got into Ukraine and you're travelling then from west to east, heading further close to Kyiv, I'm assuming then, like, silly things like the landscape, it was going from further over west, was there any sign of the war or attacks or anything like that there? And the further east you got?
Yeah. So in order to sort some of the paperwork out, now in fairness, I have to say, the way the Ukrainians deal with it is basically like, if there's a strike, say a bridge gets damaged or something, it's like the next day they're out repairing it, so it's kind of, everything's kind of, you would be forgiven if you thought, God, this doesn't look like a war zone at all, but the first time it kind of really struck home was it was a city called Lutsk, just about an hour inside the Polish border. We had to meet a guy there to fill out some paperwork to register the car in Ukraine for the people it was going to. And went into this industrial estate, met him, he spoke perfect English and all, it was great, and we're chatting away. And we looked over kind of the fence into the thing next door, and it was just this massive, it was like an oil refinery. And it was like something from Mad Max, like it was just destroyed. And I was like, Jesus Christ, what? And they were like, yeah, that's sort of like first couple of weeks last February. It was like we were in here working, and a bunch of missiles just landed next door, like, and the whole thing was destroyed. I was like, Christ. And they said, yeah, it was terrible, like, because it was one of the major refineries in that part of Ukraine. They said for about 3 weeks, like, you couldn't go outside without, T-shirt over your mouth. It was just this thick black smoke over the whole city.
Mad.
And that was kind of the first realization of, like, okay,
yeah, we're not mucking around here.
yeah,
There's real danger around.
yeah.
Wow.
Unreal.
And at any point then, when you were actually over there, like, did you ever kind of stop and, you've got this kind of adrenaline or this vision of what you want to do, but at some point you kind of go, what the hell am I doing here? I could end up in serious danger.
No, and the way I dealt with that was by just not giving myself a chance to think.
Don't dwell on it.
It was a busy schedule, and not really. I was either sleeping, eating, or driving. Honestly, most of the time, and just didn't dwell on it. Like when I spent, because we had a fair long drive through Poland, through the border to Lutsk and then to Kyiv, so we stayed overnight there, and then about 2 a.m. the air raid alarm starts.
Oh wow!
And it's very surreal. You'd hear it in videos and stuff and whatever, but when you're actually in the hotel, but sort of the reality is, especially in Kyiv, that they're kind of just. They're so used to it now that people just don't even blink twice. You know.
Yeah,
it's
I saw
crazy.
you had shared screenshots from your phone.
Yes.
That was.
Oh yes, this is the screenshots of the warnings about the attacks.
Yeah. So again, and Ukraine, they're a very kind of like a digitized economy. Like you can do everything online, like all your government stuff, everything. They kind of they put us to shame and ways with a lot of that. And I guess like first days of the sort of full scale invasion last year, they were like, right, here's an app you download on your phone. It detects where you are, you know, so I'm in Kyiv City, whatever, and even before the alarm outside comes on, you get the warning on your phone, and then it starts going. But it's if you're inside or something where you don't hear it, or maybe you're outside the city, but still in an area or danger, whatever, it'll flash up. So it was very, 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 very surreal. But again, just didn't dwell too much on it while I was there. Just kept busy.
You're there to get stuff done, and
pretty much. Yeah.
I think we need to get a few Ukrainians in the MOT centres here. Get the efficiency up.
So you're in the hotel, and I just imagine then is this like a Holiday Inn in Kyiv type thing?
No, actually, I splashed out a bit. I spent, I think it was like €35 for the night for this real nice, like 4-star hotel. So, as you can imagine, the tourist season there probably isn't too great at the minute. So, yeah, it was actually a really, really nice hotel, really nice.
And then you up 2 o'clock in the morning. That you out down into a shelter or
So what I did was I knew there was people on my floor because I'd heard them, and there was a lot of them coming in and out. The hotel was quite busy, in fairness. And I was listening. I was like, "Are any of them going to stairs?" And then I sort of realised that when I checked in really late, much to the annoyance of the receptionist who was on the night shift, and they never actually told me where the bunker was. So I would have just been sort of wandering around the hallways, sort of in a daze, half naked, probably trying to. So I'm probably just safer staying in bed.
So you just slept it out then to see what happened?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
So, like, we're talking about the 4-star hotel and stuff like that. Like, is life generally, are they trying to get on with life as normal as much as they can? Or,
So the way it was explained to me was basically everyone still in country is involved in the war, right? So the way they describe it is if you're in Kyiv City and you're still going to work every day, or you're going to the cafe, for a coffee at lunchtime, whatever. Basically, they have to keep the economy going in order to keep sort of their defence going, because they have to be able to pay the soldiers.
Yep.
You have to pay for ammo, you have to pay for fuel, because basically I was talking about the refineries got destroyed. All their fuel is imported now. Like every litre of petrol and diesel is imported. So the way they describe it is, well, who's going to pay for that? We have to try and keep as many businesses going as possible. When the guys are rotating out from the front line after like 3 months, like stuck in a fucking hole, getting shelled, we need to be able to provide them some semblance of normality when they're off the front line for those week or two. Now, the view on that differs depending on who you ask, but they're basically like, we have to. We're not going to give in and just roll over and say, well, sure, it's all done now, we'll just give up. So they're kind of just, it's a very kind of stoic it's kind of attitude that everyone has. It's like, no, just we'll keep going, we'll keep supporting the guys in the front, and yeah, as I said, you would be forgiven if you mistook it as normality, but it's not normality. I mean, basically, everyone in Ukraine is. I mean, they're heavily traumatized. Like, especially, you think Kyiv City basically was maybe like a day or two from being absolutely destroyed by Russia. If you remember, like back at the start of the war, they were 10 kilometers out.
It was heavy, constant bombardment, shells, missiles,
and then you forget. It's like you live. Say we lived around here in central Belfast, and you have family. I don't know, out Dundonald direction. And the goal is Belfast or whatever, but the Russians do get as far as Dundonald, and then whenever they're kicked out, you go there and you find like your neighbours, your family, whatever, just butchered in the streets, so and again, this was just sort of some private conversations with Ukrainians. Like their whole society is heavily traumatized and still processing all that, and that's ongoing. But at the same time, they're like, no, we're going to get on with things. We're going to go to work. I'm going to go for my coffee in the afternoon, and I'm going to enjoy it. And even if there's an air raid alarm going off, it's like, well, fuck you, Russia. I'm having my coffee, kind of thing. Very strange, but
I think traumatized is probably a really good way to describe it, because, you know, at the very start, so, you know, the first couple of months after the war started, certainly Twitter, Telegram, Facebook, everything was very much, you know, of course the people who want to see the worst in things and want to see the videos of people getting shot and whatever else, some of the stuff that was going around was, grim isn't even the word, like just horrifying, terrifying, disgusting, showing like the absolute worst traces of society with lacks of humanity. Was it as bad? Like I know this is kind of, you know, we're a motoring podcast, but this is, Anthony, you've been a guy who's been there. You've seen it and done it. You've spoke to the people who have lived this for the last, not just the last year, but the last year specifically. But, you know, how bad was it really getting over there? Like, was the videos that we were seeing, was that like really commonplace?
I mean, in the occupied areas, like it's this, put it this way, the stuff that makes it to Twitter or whatever is maybe like a tenth of the footage that's going around, and the footage that's going around is maybe like a 1% of what's actually happening, you know. It's yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. Like it was absolutely brutal, and it hasn't just gone away.
Oh.
It's just been pushed a couple of 100 miles to the east, but it's still ongoing. There's still massive Ukrainian cities that are still under occupation, still have the same thing. You know, Russians knocking down your door at night, pulling your dad out of bed, and you never see him again, kind of thing. And if you do, you know, he gets found in the street or whatever a couple of weeks later.
I'm trying to get into my mind the scale of the country. So it's obviously a huge country. So you started on the Polish border. How long is it to Kiev, just in terms of miles and hours driving?
No miles or kilometres, Andy. You know.
Yeah, no.
Oh, here, don't. I know.
It's so from the border to Kiev is, depending on what route you take, probably 6 or 7 hours, and that's pushing it on. That's doing 80 mile an hour, you know, because it's basically it's highway the whole way to Kiev from the border pretty much, and it's good smooth road as well, and they're not too strict on speed limits over there, especially, as I said, if you're driving a big green truck heading east. And then
80's risky enough in an L200, let's face it.
In fairness, right, and I've heard a couple of people say this, see when you have about half a ton of stuff in the back, it actually is planted.
They're planted.
They are really planted. It's when I emptied again, I was like, geez, this feels a bit ropey in the back. And then Kyiv to Kharkiv was probably about the same again. But then from Kharkiv further east, you've got another, I'm going to butcher the geography off the top of my head, but probably about at least the same distance again, probably a bit more until the Russian.
So you're talking about, so from the Polish border, driving time is maybe 20 hours of driving time to get to the front line almost?
Well, it's sort of, the front line stretches around the north as well, so the front line at the minute is about maybe an hour from Kharkiv.
But you were heading to the north, or were you heading to the east? Where were you?
So I was where I handed everything over was just outside Kharkiv city.
Okay.
But Kharkiv itself is like 30 miles from the Russian border. So that was why they got hit so hard very early on as well, because they just went straight in, surrounded the city and battered it. And even the day I was there, the day beforehand, they had struck the city centre with missiles. And you could still see like the debris and stuff from that, and there was a couple of people killed. And then now, when an air raid alarm goes off 30 kilometres from Russia, and when it goes off in Kyiv, are two very different things, at least for me. When it went off in Kharkiv, I was thinking, right, maybe I should actually go down into the metro here. And sort of, but I was sort of looking around, seeing how people were reacting, and I was like, well, I'll follow the locals' lead, kind of thing. And then 3 days after I left Kharkiv, there was another missile attack in the city centre again as well. So
So the L200 made it to Kharkiv. You dropped, and that's where the Jenny went to.
Yes.
And
and that was the last one. Once that was done, that was me. That was big deep breath time. Mm-hmm. We did it. It's all gone, and now I just have to get fucking home, which was an adventure in itself. But yeah,
wow.
And no notions of staying, hanging around. You know, when you're over there, and the whole kind of, you know, the mentality of I'm here to help out. Did you ever have that, you know, flicker for a second, going, God, I wonder there's more I could do here?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. But I mean, you sort of have to bring yourself back to reality. Like I'm not there to be a hero or to try and get myself killed or anyone else killed. It's really just what can I practically do to help? I was like, well, at the minute, because for example, you go to buy an L200 or comparable truck in Poland at the minute, they don't exist. Mm-hmm. Because they've been bought out. Mm-hmm. And then you even go a wee bit further west into Germany, the market there for them has gone through the roof as well. Like to get a comparable, like the one I got, I paid just, I'm trying to remember now, I think it was just under 5 for. To get something like that in mainland Europe now, you're talking twice the price. Because the demand for them, they're just buying them up just everywhere they can get. So I'm thinking, right, okay, so for the cost that they're paying for one over there, I can get 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you know, I'll do the driving, whatever, it's fine. You know, it's not an issue. So that's how I can practically help. Mm-hmm. And you sort of have to set aside emotions or any kind of wild notions of
you're not doing real life Call of Duty.
No, definitely not.
And we've seen these handover photos that you posted on the thread on RMS with the package that you were bringing over for someone. I think you posted pictures of that, and then pictures of handing over the L200 as well.
Yep.
So L200, like, are you just standing there? Like, does this place have it? You were saying that it was planes, trains, and automobiles to get home. I can't imagine it was like. Well, I'm going to use a terrible example of getting the Translink Metro service.
That's better. I'm not going to. I'll show you something later. Follow the guy on Twitter who's the CEO of the National Ukrainian Railways, and it was yesterday or the day before he posted out of their national rail network they had their best ever timetable result. It was something like 2% of their trains arrived more than a minute late during the war, by the way.
Holy shit.
But this is everyone doing their part. This is the thing, like, yes. This, you know, that is that, as you say, the existential thing. You know, just this is this people pulling together, and the it's like NASA. Someone, you know, if I wipe the floor better, someone will go to the moon type.
Well,
you know,
it harks back to World War II, and you know, people talked about Britain, all the people and the families and the neighbours out in the streets bonding together and doing their part.
The whole keep calm and carry on type thing.
Unifies the country, and you know, you've all got a single vision of determination. Absolutely. And all that.
It's so admirable.
It's sad that it takes that kind of event to do it.
Yeah,
and that there's a loss of life, which brings it to it.
Yeah,
you know, as you said, though, Andy, like it's like we're all sitting here, kind of in a wee bit of awe and like what you done, like the admiration that I certainly have for you and everybody else, and
we all want to get up and give you a big hug, man. That's unreal.
It's phenomenal.
And we're talking about range anxiety, and you're down for your wars.
Oh,
well, at least
bomb anxiety and missile anxiety.
There's diesel everywhere. At least that's not too bad.
So it literally is. Then you're at the city, and you just hop on a train. Is it
Pretty much. I mean, I'm not even joking. Like their public transport is like, I mean, not that we have much to even compare to the rest of Europe. We're terrible, but like I've been on trains around Germany and other parts of Europe, and thought that was pretty good. But this is next level. Like, it's unbelievable, and it's always been like that, and it's getting better and better, even during a war. So I mean, yeah, I got the train from Kharkiv back to Kyiv. That was like, I'll say it was like 5 hours maybe. Real comfy train, everything. Aircon, it's like trolley service and everything.
Wonderful.
Hot teas and coffees and whatever. And all like digital screens. It was just honestly super nice place to be. And it was like €9, something like
that.
And then the night train to Poland. That was a bit of an experience because there was none of the. You go in kind of the second class, whatever they call it, which is like a little cabin with 2 bunk beds in it, so you have 4 people in it. Mm-hmm. or you can go for first class, which is it's just 2 beds and like a nice dividing curtain and all the rest. They didn't have any of those tickets left, so I paid it was like €27 for the overnight, just in the normal kind of the standard night car, and that was it was quite long. I think that train was at 10 p.m. and then we got into Poland just after lunchtime. But I mean, you can sleep through most of it, you know. So
is that covering like 500-600 miles? That sort of. Yeah. So you're covering a lot of ground.
Yeah, but it's brilliant. But they have that train infrastructure all over the country. Like, it's I don't know why we got rid of all the trains here. Honestly, it's absolutely insane. Because you might rail lines we used to have in Northern Ireland alone, and it just dead away with them. But sure.
Talking about that, I completely off subject. I was driving in here this afternoon, and out the back of the big Translink station at the Europa, it's the first time I've seen it. Like, it's just this big mad looking building. Are they putting a whole?
It's a new hub, transport hub
for buses, trains, for everything in there.
Personal, yeah.
It looks fantastic already, but as you said, though, Anthony, like, it's great having it sitting there. But if there's no trains and buses going into it, like it's.
I mean, there's one line now, basically, isn't there?
Yeah.
One goes to Dublin and back.
Belfast to Dublin and back, and that's it.
It's crap. It's crap. Yeah. But that's just absolutely astounding. Like, you've shut us up. Not that we have much to say, but we're that's completely astounded by it. Have you heard back from the people in Ukraine then since you were there?
Yep. We're still texting them, seeing how they're getting on. They're like, you know, it's great, it's brilliant.
So is it still driving around Northern Ireland plates now, or has it got?
Oh no, yeah, still Northern Ireland plates. Yeah,
fantastic.
I think it's Rose plates or something
in the post.
Yeah, yeah. So it's hopefully it'll. And I mean, if it gets blown up or gets hit by a landmine or whatever, or you know, as long as the guy's inside, it's just a piece of metal. You know, we'll get another one.
So you're saying get another one? I'm assuming now this is the next, you know, keep the fundraiser going, keep the crowdfunding going.
Yep. Yeah. So once, as you can imagine, when I was over there, I made quite a few contacts and stuff, and got hold of a guy who's, if you kind of remember, the sort of first half of last year, that city of Mariupol in southeastern Ukraine, that was basically under siege for like 2.5 months. Completely wiped off the face of the earth, basically. Some of the guys that basically defended that until basically they literally ran out of ammunition and food, water, was the Marine Infantry, Ukrainian Marines, basically, and particularly the 501st Battalion. And a lot of them were taken as POWs, most of them were killed. And in prisoner exchanges the past couple of months, thankfully, a lot of them have been exchanged for Russian prisoners and released. So they're basically reforming that battalion to go do their job again, basically, and defend more. And they just need everything to get off the ground. And once again, okay, what can I actually help them with? Let's get them a truck, get them a pickup, and they can use it to haul their stuff around and move casualties around and all the rest. So that's the next one. Yeah, I gave myself 10 days to decompress and rest and catch up with work and other sort of more mundane stuff, and back on the go again. Hopefully maybe start of April be over there again. So
wow, I'm sure that experience gives you does it change your perspective on life? We're getting existential here, where the conversation goes.
It can't not do, right? Like, it can't, like, it's, you sort of, you even coming back, you get back into Poland and people are getting annoyed about traffic or whatever, and you're like, you're sort of, you can't become one of them sort of holier than thou types. You're like, can't believe you're getting annoyed about traffic when this has happened. Yeah. But personally, it does, you catch yourself if maybe I'm getting stressed about something in work or, you know, whatever, like we all do, our family, and sort of, it does allow you, I guess, to take a wee breather and think, actually, you know what, we're doing okay here, we'll manage this, you know. But yeah, I think that's inevitable for anyone that really sees it. Wow.
So back again, another L200, and similar place, different place.
These guys are further south at the minute. Although they don't know where they'll be in a month, basically, they might be getting reassigned, so it could be a little bit further east than Kharkiv, maybe, which would be maybe a wee bit sketchier, but should be okay. We'll figure something out. And again, yeah, we'll see how it goes. If I kind of blast through the fundraiser again like I did last time, then that's how we were able to kind of stretch it to grab the generator and other bits. I've managed to get hold of a couple of suppliers now for actual proper medical kits like tourniquets and that, and the prices have stabilised a bit. So what I might do is might just buy a heap of that in bulk this time if I can. Because if I'm leaving in 2 weeks and we have the truck and all bought, I can raise a bit more. Then we'll probably do that, buy loads of tourniquets and bandages and stuff. But I just play it by ear. Honestly, that's kind of what I did last time, and it sort of worked out.
It worked out all right.
Yeah.
Again, it's probably a silly question, but you know more about it than I do. So, how long are Russia, or how long can they keep going? Are they like? What's their goal? Is their goal to keep pushing to try? Because they can only get so far. Obviously, we've heard they don't want to get too close to Poland, because they get to Poland, then it involves NATO and things like that. So, what is their goal? They're trying to take over, obviously, Crimea, because it's a main port. Mariupol, they levelled it to the ground because they saw it as a stronghold. Are they trying to get as far as Kyiv?
Oh yeah, I mean that's whether they will or not. I think everyone would agree now that it's probably they're not going to ever get that far again. Especially now, because when it kind of started, Ukraine wasn't really prepared. They're not like an incredibly wealthy country that can stand up and in terms of the help that they were getting from any Western partners was very limited. And in fairness, the UK government have been there since I think it was 2015, training them. It was like 30,000 Ukrainian soldiers. It was Operation Orbital, I think that was called. I guess maybe we sense of, you can tell, at least amongst the UK government and stuff, there's kind of a sense of pride there. But in terms of actual material help, it was extremely limited. And the Ukrainian sort of society and army, what it was compared to this time last year, it's the Russians just wouldn't stand a chance now trying to get anywhere near Kyiv. They would, and they've fortified that border so much now, and trained up all the guys, because like when I was talking to people in Kyiv, those first days when they sort of rolled across the border from the north and were heading through the forest and all, it was literally like an owl boy and his 2 sons got their hunting rifles out and the shotguns and were out like taking pot shots at Russian tanks and stuff.
Yeah.
And now they've dug it.
And that plus what army there was enough to hold them off. Now they're properly dug in. Like if the Russians tried that again, they would get decimated. But they do have this kind of concentration in the east, because that's where they've been since 2014. So they've dug in there. There's plenty of munitions and artillery and all
support
sorts.
now as well from Poland and Germany and the other European countries who have give tanks and everything else to them too. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to play fortune teller and because something crazy could happen next week.
Yeah.
You just don't know. But I'm just kind of what change can I affect in a tiny way?
You see your path now, and
listen, that's what I do. And if enough of that goes on between governments and other people, then hopefully they'll get through it.
I remember in the days leading up to it that there was getting a bit of talk in the media that Russia was starting to prepare and it was moving around and they thought something was going to happen. But did the Ukrainians have any kind of foreshadowing or foreknowledge of it coming? Or did they expect it to happen, do you think?
The people that needed to see it coming saw it coming, but I think generally there was kind of they didn't want to panic the population, and that kind of thing, which it's perfectly understandable, especially like Kyiv, the city of millions of people. They already had millions of people left. I'm sure you saw the pictures of the Polish border and stuff in those first 3 days. Like people queuing for like 3 days to get out of the country and stuff. So they obviously wanted to avoid that, and maybe they were hoping as well that negotiations or whatever. But it's come out through interviews and articles and that's, and saying the people sort of in the military that needed to know did know, and a big part of the reason why they didn't get completely wiped out was they were able to move stuff around. So the Russians had maps of maybe where all the military positions and stuff were, and they sort of dispersed everything, and that those massive missile strikes in the first days didn't really do much to impede them, and somehow they've just managed to keep going.
Well, look, I'm going to post the link to your fundraiser as part of the show notes as well in the forum. Like, if you're listening to this and get a look at that, and if you feel you should donate, that's the place to do it, and hopefully send you back with another L200 in green again.
Yes, another dodgy paint job of mine.
I was going to ask about the paint job. So on the lighter matters of the actual vehicle prep. So was there a bit of servicing went on? I'm sure you didn't just say, "Oh, it's a Mitsubishi, it'll be grand."
No. I had a decent look over it. The pads and everything were all fine, but didn't oil change, that kind of basic stuff.
Was it a rattle can paint job?
No, it was a roller paint job.
Oh, nice.
Coog special.
A Coog special, fantastic.
Yeah. It was. I'm doing air quotes here, off-road paint, designed for oil defenders and stuff, beating through bushes and that. But yeah, we like 4-inch foam paint rollers, and it went on retreat. Really did. Done on a field down outside Greencastle.
Brilliant.
Because that was the only place I had room for it for 2 days.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was actually, obviously, with anything like that, the prep was a pain in the arse, sanding it all down. But in terms of painting, it's actually super easy.
Get some of your RMS stickers from your drift car, Andy, for one of them.
Oh, we'll have to get some of those stickers. Don't talk to me, no. But cracker. Well, look, we wish you all the best for the next trip. I couldn't think of anything more worthwhile at the moment in the world.
It's amazing.
It's
admirable, really.
Yeah, it's incredible. And anything different about this time that you didn't get done last time that you think, right, is something else spurred you on? You just, right, they just need as much help as possible, or I'll do things a bit differently this time. Is there anything else?
I'm actually probably going to try and give myself a day or two in Kyiv just to be a tourist, and go see, because even I had like 4 deliveries to do in Kyiv, which took me kind of all over the city. And even when you're driving around, you're like, wow, this place is unbelievable. First of all, the size of it. Like, we got in real late at night, and we were like, right, we're in Kyiv City, and I looked at the sat nav, and it was like, it's still 40 minutes to the hotel. Like, it's massive. It's like a proper metropolis. But it really is beautiful. Like, there's a bunch of cathedrals and churches and all there that are like, near 1,000 years old and stuff.
Wow. Big
beautiful buildings everywhere, the landscape, and so that's probably the only thing I'll really do different this time. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, here, really appreciate you sharing that with us, Anthony. It was just absolutely mind blowing, and please keep us up to date on the forum.
Will do.
With more photos. We want to see this paint rolling in action. This paint job,
what's you were saying you have an active Twitter there. Shout your Twitter handle out there so as we can give you
same as the forum username, Artoir.
At Artoir.
If I could time-lapse video of the roller job, would be cool.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've bigger concerns when they joke.
No, it's actually, I'm not even joking. It was like on the YouTube, how to paint car cheap, something like that, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, but it actually, it turned out all right. Recommend it.
When you were rollering this, were you thinking, what the hell am I doing? I've just bought this on roller and a pickup, and I'm going to drive it to this war zone?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, as long as, put it this way, it was bright white, which isn't really ideal when if they're taken in to evacuate casualties and stuff. So it was like, if it looks vaguely green by the time I get there, that's fine. It'll do the job, So
class. Okay. I think I have nothing else to add to that, because I'm blown away.
And there's nothing I even want to add. Like, it's just...
if you enjoyed that, post up on the forum, like and share the podcast, do all those things. If you want to ask some questions as well for future podcasts, check us out in the forum, and we're everywhere at RMS Motoring. Anthony, thanks very much for coming along.
Thanks for having us.
And without further ado, I think we'll pull this into the border queue, and hopefully don't have to wait for 10 hours. And remember, there's no warranty. This was sold as sing.